I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who gets discarded by her own blood like a box of old winter clothes. But here I am, sitting in a lawn chair next to a leaking water heater, wrapped in 2 mismatched blankets, listening to rats skitter behind cardboard boxes. And this, apparently, is where my son thinks I belong. It started 2 months ago, in late March, the kind of March that still stings with leftover winter. I had just gotten out of the hospital after a double knee replacement, both knees done in one go because insurance wouldn't cover 2 separate procedures. More cost-effective, they said. I'd saved up $3,800 to cover what Medicare wouldn't. My surgeon, Dr. Leland, told me recovery would take 10 to 12 weeks. I wouldn't be able to climb stairs. I'd need help bathing, dressing, even using the toilet at first. And of course, I couldn't live alone in my 2-story townhouse in Cedar Ridge, not with all those stairs. I called my son Daniel the day before surgery. I hate to ask, but could I stay with you for a few weeks? My voice cracked more than I wanted it to. He didn't hesitate. Of course, Mom. Your family. We'll take care of you. Will. As in him and Allison, his wife of 6 years. I should have known better. Allison never liked me. She smiled with her teeth, but not her eyes. The kind of woman who wore beige all the time and acted like kindness was a luxury she couldn't afford. She always called me Sandra instead of Mom. Always brought her own food to family dinners, like my cooking wasn't clean enough, but I told myself, she's just private. She's just different. I arrived at their house on April 2nd, a Wednesday. I still remember the Uber driver saying, "Need help with that walker, ma'am?" My legs were like wet noodles, trembling from the 40-minute ride. The pain pills hadn't kicked in. I was dizzy. Sweat was pooling at my lower back, despite the chill. I held my hospital bag like it was an anchor keeping me upright. Daniel opened the door. "Hey, Mom," he said, smiling, but his eyes darted past me, like checking if someone was watching. I thought maybe I imagined it. And then Allison appeared behind him, arms folded. "Oh, you're here. Not how are you. Not welcome. Just, you're here." They didn't bring me inside right away. Allison said, "So we talked about it, and we think the garage might be the easiest. It's on the ground floor, no stairs, private, and you'll have space." I blinked. "The garage?" Daniel touched my elbow. "It's just for a few weeks, Mom. We cleared it out. It's actually not so bad. It's temporary." I shuffled behind them slowly as they led me around the side of the house, through the side door of the garage. There was no ramp, just 2 small concrete steps that felt like mountains. Daniel had to half-carry me. The garage smelled of oil and cold metal. A cot was set up next to the water heater, with a thin pink comforter I recognized from the guest bed I used to sleep on during visits. A plastic nightstand, no windows, a space heater in the corner. "You can plug in your phone here," Allison said, pointing to an extension cord. They had cleared a path through the boxes of Christmas decorations, old clothes, and toddler toys. But that was it. I was sleeping in a storage room. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I felt like I was drowning in shame. I nodded. "Thank you," I said quietly. The first night, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the hospital ceiling again, the beeping monitors, the nurse changing my catheter. And now, instead of recovering in a warm bed with clean sheets and someone checking in, I was listening to the whir of the garage door motor and feeling the cold air seep through the walls. The next morning, Allison knocked once and Ned the door just wide enough to say, "Daniel's at work. I'll leave your breakfast here." She set down a bowl of oatmeal and left before I could answer. It was lukewarm. No fruit, no sugar, just gray mush. I sat there for 10 minutes before I could reach the bowl. My knees throbbed. Every movement felt like someone sawing into bone. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. I couldn't. I needed them. That day, Daniel came home around 6 p.m. I heard the car pull into the driveway, the door slam. I waited, hoping he'd come say hello. He didn't. I waited again the next day. Same thing. By day 4, I asked Allison if I could come inside to watch TV in the evening. She paused, then said, "The kids have a strict routine. Noise stimulates them too much at night. Maybe it's best if you rest out here." Out here. Like I was some stray cat they fed, but didn't want indoors. Over the next week, I started taking note of everything. April 4. She forgot to give me my 10 a.m. dose of pain meds. I asked twice. She said, "I'm not a nurse, Sandra." April 7. My meals started arriving on paper plates, sometimes still half frozen in the middle. April 9th. She told me to keep the heater off during the day because of the electricity bill. April 12th. I found a text on Daniel's tablet that said, "She's not dying. She can stay a motel if it's too hard." It was from Allison. I stared at that screen for 10 minutes. I didn't even feel angry, just emptied. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left nothing but ache. I had been a mother for 34 years. I worked full-time until I was 61. I raised Daniel alone after his father died of a heart attack when he was 8. I gave him everything. Cooked, cleaned, drove him to violin lessons, tutored him in algebra until midnight, paid $9,200 for his college tuition even after he got financial aid. I still have the check stubs, and now I was being warehoused in a garage like a broken appliance they couldn't bring themselves to throw out yet. By the end of week 2, something inside me begged and to shift. I started writing everything down in a small notebook I kept hidden under the cot. Dates, comments, skipped medications, missed meals, everything. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew I wasn't going to let this go. On the 15th night, the rats chewed through my pill bottle. I woke up to the clatter of plastic skidding across the cement and saw 2 small eyes glinting near the shelving unit. One of my oxycodone tablets lay crushed beneath a little paw. I didn't scream. I just sat up slowly, knees hot with pain, and laughed. A cold, bitter sound that echoed off the concrete walls. That morning, Allison asked me why I was limping worse. I told her about the pills, and she said, "Well, maybe keep them in a safer spot next time." I asked if we could replace them. She said, "That's a controlled substance, Sandra. I can't just go pick it up like Tylenol." Daniel wasn't home. He was never home anymore. "Work," he said, or "kids are sick," or "Allison's exhausted." But his car was in the driveway on Saturday, and I didn't hear any coughing babies. I heard laughter, a movie playing, popcorn being made in the microwave. They were in there, living their soft, cozy lives, while I was bundled in 3 layers, icing my swollen knees with a frozen bag of peas. That was the day I stopped hoping they'd remember who I was. The turning point. It happened a week later, on April 21st. I was left alone for most of the afternoon. The garage was dead silent. I had finally started walking again, slowly, using my walker to move in tiny laps across the cold floor. One lap took about 5 minutes, but I was stubborn. I did 10. Afterward, I sat down, exhausted, and that's when I heard it. The back door to the kitchen creaked open. Their voices drifted through the thin walls. I froze. "She can't stay much longer, Daniel," Allison hissed. "I'm sick of playing caregiver." "She's your mother-in-law, not your dog," he snapped. "You could try being a little more human." I didn't breathe. Allison's voice went low, cold. "Your mother hates me. Don't pretend otherwise. She's always judged me. You know what she said at our wedding reception? Maybe you'll grow into your dress someday." That was 12 years ago. I remember it. It was a joke, one she laughed at, or so I thought. She'd never let it go. "She's healing," Daniel said. "It's temporary. She's taking over my house, Daniel. I want her out before Mother's Day. Or maybe I'll take the kids to my mother's instead. She actually respects me." There was a long pause. Then Daniel muttered, "Fine. I'll tell her she needs to find somewhere else." My heart thudded in my ears. I wanted to scream, to pound on the wall and demand answers, but I didn't. I just reached for my little spiral notebook and wrote April 21st, 2:17 p.m. "Allison wants me out before Mother's Day, threatening to leave with kids." Daniel agreed. Then I underlined it twice. The silent watcher. From that day on, I stopped being a guest, even a mistreated one, and became something else entirely. I was a witness. I started paying attention to everything, every word, every slip-up. I found the Wi-Fi password scribbled on a sticky note taped to a box labeled Easter lights. I used it to connect an old tablet I'd brought in my hospital bag. I started documenting things, audio recordings, photos, timestamps, the missed meds, the mold growing on my lunches, the temperature in the garage, 41 degrees at night. I used a cheap thermometer from CVS. The 2 times Allison left the kids alone upstairs while she went to yoga. All logged, all dated. Then came April 28th. I was resting when I heard Allison screaming into her phone from the laundry room, which backed up right against the garage wall. Her voice was muffled, but clear enough. "No, that's not fraud. It's reimbursement. She gave us the money for groceries. We used but for bills. Same thing." I blinked. I had given her $300 in cash 2 weeks ago after she complained about all the extra mouths to feed. She said she needed to restock the fridge. I hadn't eaten a single fresh item since. I recorded the whole call. The visit. On May 1st, my sister Gloria came to see me. She hadn't visited in years. We weren't close, but I had sent her a message asking if she could stop by and see how I was doing. She walked through the garage door and stopped in her tracks. "Good God, Sandra." I said nothing, just gestured around the garage. "You're recovering from surgery in a converted storage locker," she whispered. "Is this a joke?" I shook my head. That was the first time I saw myself through someone else's eyes, frail, bundled in worn sweaters, surrounded by spider webs and gas cans. The shame boiled over into fury. Gloria took out her phone and began taking pictures. "They're not going to get away with this." But I stopped her. "Not yet," I said. "I'm collecting everything. I just need a bit more time." She stared at me. "What are you planning?" I smiled. "Something that'll leave a scar. The paper trail." That night, I pulled up my savings account. I had exactly $12,460 in liquid cash. I'd been saving for a cruise with the Retired Teachers Club, one I now had no interest in taking. I spent $300 on a consultation with a social worker. I told her about the living conditions, the denied medication, the threats, the financial manipulation. She took notes. She was polite, but then she paused and said, "You realize if you file a formal complaint, you could trigger a welfare investigation into their custody arrangement too." I hadn't thought of that, but I didn't say no. May 6th, 5 days until Mother's Day. Daniel came into the garage around 9 p.m. I hadn't seen him in 3 days. He looked uncomfortable, shoved his hands into his hoodie pockets. "So," he said, not meeting my eyes, "Allison and I think it's time to start looking for somewhere else, a recovery center or something. It's just not working out here." I stared at him. My only child. Somewhere else? I mean, it's not personal. We need our space back. I nodded slowly. "You'll have your space, Daniel," I said, "sooner than you think." I never believed in revenge. Not the petty kind, anyway. I'm not the type to slash tires or scream in someone's face at the grocery store. No. What I believe in is documentation. Evidence, the kind of revenge that takes time to cook. That settles in your chest like a warm coal, heating slowly until the burn is permanent. So when Daniel told me to look into a recovery center, what he didn't realize was that I already had, and I wasn't going anywhere, not until this story ended the right way. May 7th, the first step, I woke up at 5:15 a.m. My knees were still stiff, but I could stand without gripping the walker for dear life now. I opened the garage door quietly, walked around to the street, and waited. At 5:43 a.m., a silver Nissan Sentra pulled up. Inside was Janelle Adams, licensed caseworker for Elder Protective Services. I'd scheduled the home visit 3 days earlier after Gloria encouraged me to file the report. Janelle stepped out, clipboard in hand, long braids tied back, face calm but sharp. "Ms. Grayson?" she asked. I nodded. "Please, call me Sandra." She followed me into the garage. Her eyes moved slowly. Over the exposed insulation, the dusty space heater, the bucket I had to use at night when I couldn't make it to the bathroom in time. Her brows lowered, just a bit. "How long have you been sleeping out here?" she asked. "Since April 2nd, I said. "They told me it would just be for a week or two." She looked at the cot. "And have they moved you inside since then?" "No." "Where's the nearest bathroom?" "Upstairs." Janelle stared at the ceiling. "You had double knee replacement. You can't use stairs." "Exactly." I showed her the notebook. My stack of dated photos. The meal photos. Undercooked frozen chicken, a bowl of plain rice, a slice of bread with no butter. I showed her the heating thermometer, 40 degrees on April 16th, the audio recording of Allison's phone call, and most importantly, the voice memo where Daniel said, She can't stay here much longer. It's just not working. She looked up at me. You know this could escalate. Are you prepared for that? I met her eyes. More than prepared. I want a record. I want someone else to know what they've done. She nodded and tucked the photos into her folder. This wasn't just unkind, she said. This is documented neglect. May 8th, the confrontation. It happened faster than I expected. At 4:22 p.m., Allison burst into the garage, red-faced and trembling. You reported us? She shrieked. You called the state on us? I looked up from my tablet. They called me. Her eyes bulged. Do you know what you've done? If Child Services gets involved, Daniel could lose his job. His name is on the county's emergency response list. A report on file makes him look unstable. I tilted my head. Maybe he should have thought of that before putting his mother in a storage unit. She stood there, breathing hard. For a moment, I thought she might hit me, but she didn't. Instead, she spat. You're not family. You're a bitter, nosy woman who couldn't handle being irrelevant. Then she turned and slammed the door behind her so hard that one of the picture frames fell off the shelf and cracked. May 9th, the lawyer. The next morning, I called Jasmine King, a probate attorney recommended by my old friend Carol. She wasn't cheap, $180 for the first hour, but worth every cent. I explained the situation, told her about the $9,200 I had paid toward Daniel's tuition over 4 years, showed her the spreadsheet I kept. Yes, a spreadsheet, with every check, deposit, and payment I'd made to help Daniel since he turned 18, over $36,000 in total. I asked, can I make that legally relevant somehow? I don't want the money back. I want it on the record. She smiled. You're thinking ahead. That's smart. Yes, it can be used to illustrate undue hardship if this case escalates to family court. You'd be surprised how often these things turn. Good, I said, because I'm not here to get even. I'm here to end the cycle. May 10th, Allison slips. The day before Mother's Day, I woke up to shouting inside the house. It was Allison again. I don't care if she's your mother. She's manipulative. She's making us look abusive. Then I heard something that made my stomach twist. She knows about the trust, Daniel. I saw her looking at the binder in your office. There was a pause. She doesn't know details, Daniel said quickly. And anyway, she's not entitled to it. You said it yourself. The trust is only for the new family. New family. That was the word that broke me. I wasn't part of the new family. I was an old relic, something to be erased, denied, filed away like a stack of junk mail. But I wasn't powerless. May 11th, Mother's Day. I didn't expect a gift, but they surprised me with a card. Daniel handed it to me like a man giving away his last matchstick. Allison stood behind him, her face blank. The card read, Thanks for being here with us. We hope you're feeling better soon. No signature. I nodded and smiled. Actually, I said, I've been making great progress. I think I'll be moving out soon. Relief washed over Daniel's face. Oh, that's great, Mom. I smiled wider. Yes, just need a few more things in place. Allison narrowed her eyes. Like what? I shrugged. Just paperwork. May 13th, the letter. That evening, I watched from the garage window as Daniel brought in the mail. He stared at the top envelope, brow furrowed. The return address said, State of New Jersey, Division of Adult Protective Services, Notice of Open Investigation, Case number 723A41B. He didn't say anything to me that night, but Allison didn't speak to me at all. May 15th, the visit from Gloria. Gloria came back, this time with her husband. They helped me pack 2 suitcases and walked me out of the garage. Allison didn't open the door. Daniel watched from the kitchen window, face pale. Where are you going? He asked, stepping outside. I paused. To a place where I'm wanted. I didn't want this to happen like this, he mumbled. I looked him straight in the eye. Yes, Daniel, you did. You just didn't think I'd make it matter. He tried to speak again, but Gloria cut him off. She's done sleeping next to gas cans. I spent the first night at Gloria's house not sleeping, but staring at the ceiling. Not because I was uncomfortable. Her guest room was lovely, with fresh sheets that smelled like lavender, a soft down comforter, and a reading lamp that actually worked. It wasn't the physical space that kept me awake. It was the silence. No rats, no water heater clicking, no space heater humming its last breath, no footsteps stomping above my head like I was the dirt beneath their floors. just the sound of my own thoughts and the sound of everything I was about to set in motion. May 17th, the binder. Gloria knew exactly what I needed the moment I woke up. Coffee. Strong, black, with a splash of almond milk, and her old laptop, already powered on. "Ready to go?" she asked. I nodded. "Let's finish this." I hadn't told her everything yet, only that Daniel and Allison had a financial trust for their kids, and apparently I wasn't part of it. But what Allison said during that argument still echoed in my mind. She knows about the trust. She was looking at the binder. I had seen the binder. I remembered exactly where it was. On Daniel's desk, in his home office, labeled Estate Family Planning. And I remembered the name on the cover sheet, Grayson Family Legacy Trust. He never told me it existed. I didn't know if it was legal, moral, or just cowardly. But I knew one thing. If they were hiding financial plans while using my money to buy organic snacks and yoga classes, then I had a right to look deeper. Gloria helped me contact a trust litigation consultant, not a lawyer, just someone who could explain the document jargon. We sent a polite email to Daniel requesting a digital copy of the trust for emergency estate planning reasons. To my surprise, he replied within an hour. "Sure, Mom, I'll send it over. Hope you're settling in okay." Settling in, like I'd moved into a resort. By 3:45 p.m., the PDF arrived. May 18th, the final betrayal. The trust was 40 pages long. Gloria and I read it together, one section at a time. Here's what we found. The primary beneficiaries were Daniel and Allison's 2 children. The secondary was Allison. The trust was funded by a life insurance policy taken out under Daniel's name, $500,000, and the contingency clause, the part that stopped my breath, was this. In the event that Sandra Louise Grayson attempts to claim residence, property, or dependent status under any beneficiary, the trust may be frozen, pending a review for fraud, coercion, or elder interference. I read it twice, then a third time. They had written me into their financial planning as a threat, not as a loved one, not as a potential guardian, but as a liability to be protected against. "They wrote me out of their lives in advance," I whispered. Gloria was silent. Then she said, "We're taking this public." May 20th, the statement. With Janelle's guidance from Adult Protective Services, I prepared a formal affidavit. It included a timeline of neglect, photos of the garage and my sleeping conditions, audio transcripts, medical statements showing my post-operative needs, a breakdown of the $300 grocery money misused, and finally, the trust excerpt to demonstrate premeditated financial distancing. I didn't file for criminal charges, not yet. That wasn't the point. The point was exposure. Janelle submitted it as part of her internal case file, and then Gloria uploaded the full story, anonymized but detailed, to a private Facebook group for elder advocacy. By the end of the day, it had over 14,000 views. The comments made me cry. My daughter-in-law did the same to me. I thought I was the only one. "You are not invisible. You are a survivor. Please take them to court. Please don't let them get away with this." I wasn't alone anymore. May 23rd, the knock at their door. Daniel called at 9:12 a.m. He didn't start with hi. He started with, "Mom, why is there a welfare officer at our door asking about your sleeping arrangements?" I said, "Because I told the truth." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You're ruining everything. My job, my family's name. What do you want from us?" I answered calmly. I wanted respect, a warm bed, and for my son not to let his wife treat me like a parasite. "You don't understand." "No, Daniel," I cut in. "You don't, and it's too late now." I hung up before he could say anything else. May 25th, the letter from his employer. It came anonymously. But I know it was real because it matched exactly what Jasmine, the lawyer, said would happen. A letter of conduct concern issued by the county's Human Resources Division, a soft warning that Daniel's name had appeared in an Adult Protective Services complaint and would be under internal review. He hadn't been fired, but the stain was there now, a permanent fingerprint on the image he worked so hard to polish. All because he couldn't stand up to his wife. Or maybe because he agreed with her all along. May 28th. Closure. Janelle called me with the final case update. The investigation is officially closed, she said. We've concluded that neglect occurred, though not to a criminal degree. However, your complaint has been recorded, and any future reports will trigger escalation. I thanked her. She paused. You're one of the strongest women I've ever worked with, Sandra. Most people would have just endured this. You documented, you advocated, you didn't back down. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just said, thank you. May 30th, the last message. Daniel texted me. I never thought it would end up like this. I hope someday we can talk. I stared at the screen for a long time, then typed back. I was sleeping next to gas cans, Daniel. You didn't knock once. I pressed send, then blocked his number. I used to think closure came in one big moment, like a courtroom slam of a gavel, or someone falling to their knees in apology. But now I know the truth. Closure comes in layers. It shows up in the way your chest doesn't tighten every time you hear their name, in the sound of a door you chose to close, in the first morning you wake up and don't feel like explaining yourself to anyone. That morning came for me on June 5th, exactly 64 days after I first arrived at my son's house for post-surgery recovery, and exactly 58 days after they made me sleep in their garage. June 5th, a letter with no stamp. I found the envelope tucked into the flower bed at Gloria's front door. No return address, just my name, Mom. I nearly didn't open it, but I did. Inside was a single page, handwritten in Daniel's stiff, slanted print. Mom, I don't know how to fix what I broke. Every day I replay the moment I chose silence over standing up for you. I want to say it was pressure, or stress, or being caught between two women I love. But the truth is, I was a coward. Allison doesn't know I'm writing this. She still thinks you're the problem. Maybe that tells you everything you need to know. If you never want to speak to me again, I'll understand. But if there's a door, even a crack, I'd like the chance to earn my way back in. Happy belated Mother's Day. I'm sorry you spent it alone. Love, Daniel. I folded the letter slowly, then placed it in the back of my notebook. The same one where I recorded every betrayal, every missed medication, every cruel whisper. It didn't make things right, but it was the first time he said, sorry. June 7th, the invitation. A week later, Gloria came into my room holding her laptop. You're not going to believe this, she said. She turned the screen toward me. It was a listing from a local podcast called Silent Suffering, Stories They Never Thought We'd Tell. They'd found the anonymized version of my story online, the one we posted in the Elder Advocacy group, and wanted to feature me. Not just read it, but interview me directly. They're doing a series on elder abuse in modern families, Gloria said, barely hiding her excitement. And they want your voice. Literally. I stared at the email. It didn't feel real. Me? The woman who spent 6 weeks sleeping next to old paint cans and rat traps? The woman whose own daughter-in-law called her a burden to be managed? They wanted my voice? Yes, I said. Tell them yes. June 12th. The interview. I wore a pale blue blouse, simple earrings, no makeup, except for a little lip color Gloria insisted on. They set me up in a small studio, a mic, a glass of water, a warm light. And then they asked me, can you describe the moment you realized you were no longer seen as a person in that house? I didn't cry. I told the truth. I told them about the cold, the crushed pills, the bucket I had to use for a bathroom, the overheard conversations, the binder, the way Daniel looked at me like I was a problem to be solved. And then I told them the thing I hadn't told anyone, not even Gloria. I started to believe them, that I was in the way, that I had outlived my usefulness, that maybe I did deserve to be invisible. There was a pause. Then the host said, "But you didn't stay invisible." And I smiled. No, I didn't. June 19th, The Ripple. The episode aired a week later. It went viral. Thousands of comments, emails, messages from strangers. Some said they cried. Others said they saw their own mother in my voice. One woman wrote, "Because of you, I called my mom. I hadn't spoken to her in 5 years. Thank you. I sat on Gloria's porch, reading them with tears dripping down my fingers. That night, Daniel called again. This time, I answered. June 20th, the final call. I heard the episode, he said. His voice was hoarse. I said nothing. I deserved every word, he added. You don't owe me anything. But I wanted you to know. I'm getting a divorce. I blinked. What? I tried to make it work, but Allison refuses to see what she did wrong. She says you manipulated the system, that you faked the whole thing for attention. He laughed bitterly. She still doesn't know I recorded her call that day, the one where she said you were a burden to be contained. Silence stretched between us. Then I asked quietly, what made you finally see it? You leaving? He said. And the silence after. June 30th, a new chapter. I got a letter from the podcast producers. They want to option the story for a limited-run audio drama series, 5 episodes. I could help write it, or narrate it, if I want to. I said yes. Not because I want to be famous, but because I want to put this kind of silence to rest. The kind that happens when older women are erased behind garage doors and polite excuses. We are not burdens. We are witnesses. And some of us know how to wait in the dark until the right moment to speak. July 4th, Independence Day. I watched fireworks from Gloria's backyard, a soft blanket over my lap, a plate of real food on my knees, roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, fresh green beans with lemon zest. Her grandkids ran through the grass barefoot, laughing. I leaned back and closed my eyes. For the first time in months, I wasn't planning revenge. I wasn't collecting proof. I wasn't bracing for a comment or a slam of a door. I was living. And that's the end of my story. The son I raised forgot who I was. The woman he married tried to erase me. But I reminded them, and the world, that even in the coldest corners, the truth finds its way to the light. I'm Sandra Louise Grayson, and I don't sleep in garages anymore.